Well, folks, welcome back to the Logic Speak podcast. We're your hosts, Adam and Jason, and we're back with another episode on our weekly podcast show.
Happy to be here.
Jason, we just had a chili cook-off in the office.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Right?
We had 4 different competitors, and there are pictures online, so you can look back on the Logic Speak page and see some of our photos. But
How hard was it to pick one of those?
It was
I think
outstanding.
the competition has risen to levels it's never been before.
Yeah, specifically because I didn't compete this year. But
Fair. You would have dominated, I'm certain.
anywho, this podcast is not about my real, authentic Texas chili that does not have beans. It is about leadership. Today, we're going to talk about emotional maturity.
I wish you would display some.
Specifically, we're going to talk about emotional maturity as it relates to organizational culture, how we operate as a team, how you look at the hiring process, kind of how you rank emotional maturity up against IQ, and kind of start to unpack some of that.
Can I give you a lead-in statement?
Precursor? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
precursor. This concept has probably made as much difference in how I view employees, hiring, all the things as any other concept from an employment perspective. It's that important.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that we're talking about it because hopefully in talking about it, it is something that becomes important or just, if anything, helps people think a little differently maybe
Sure.
than they had before. So first, I want to talk about the different Qs. We've got IQ, which is usually kind of the problem-solving, strategic thinking, your aptitude, if you will. EQ being your self-awareness, being able to emotionally regulate. And then SQ, the ability to navigate relationships and networks.
You forgot one. There's Barbie.
What's Barbie? What? Oh, barbecue. Is that the joke you said that you were going to wait and tell me when we got on? That was real good.
You're welcome.
Insert clap. I think there's a button over there that
Yeah,
be
we
clapping,
should do
but
that.
we're not going to do it.
We're off the rails already.
So when you look at Logic Speak, how do you see those 3 showing up in our organization first?
So it is fair to say that for probably most companies, the only thing that we focus on or historically have focused on in the hiring process, even in the skills development process for employees, is IQ. And I don't literally mean like what's your IQ number.
Sure.
But just this concept of what you know how to do, the skills, your technical expertise, the what of your job, right? And I think a lot of times we feel like, oh man, if we get somebody, we've been victim to this ourselves. Oh, if we can just get somebody who's really good at insert your thing, closing tickets, doing projects, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Then we'll have then it'll be great, right? And I think we miss out on probably some of the more important cues, if you will, by not focusing on EQ and SQ. So I think that's how historically it has shown up. Once we realized this concept, or once we started to integrate this into our thinking, it completely changed how we interview.
Yeah.
It completely changed how we think about employment. It changed what we think we need to do from a skills development perspective or from a continual learning perspective. It's not just about teaching people about computers.
It's good.
It's about helping them with personal growth, helping them to develop the other cues, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes me wonder if anybody's listening to this and maybe is updating their resume or building their resume, or even thinking of applying to another company or applying here at Logic Speak. Maybe it would be important to find ways to weave in your EQ and SQ to your resume and how you show up. Just in that interview process.
I think that's really good advice. And the other thing I would add from an employer perspective, I guarantee you, mostly, that you've probably had an employee who on paper, and when you interviewed them, you thought they were going to be a rock star, a complete rock star. And then 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, you found yourself showing them the door, or they left, and you couldn't figure out, like, why did they not work? They knew everything they were supposed to know. We on the way in, we just knew they were going to be the perfect employee, and they weren't. And I would be more than willing to bet it's one or the other. It's EQ or SQ that probably showed up and ended up being the reason they left.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about emotional maturity because you know we talk about this a lot, and you kind of say that is the secret sauce of kind of how we prioritize hiring. Again, not neglecting the hard skills,
Sure.
but realizing that the soft skills of emotional maturity make a profound impact in how that person or individual is going to operate within the team. So,
well, it's because it shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, a lot of the challenges of employment can be traced back to issues with emotional maturity.
Yeah. So can you define like emotional maturity in the simplest of terms? Like how do you think about it?
So I the way that I view emotional maturity, and there are probably some really good definitions that we should quote, but it's really a self-awareness, awareness of how you show up in the world, and then ultimately whether or not you have, and these are big words that I learned from my counselor, but whether you have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. And I think the combination of those two things, am I self-aware? Do I know where I end and others begin? Am I confident in how I'm showing up in the world? And then do I allow the world to rattle me, or do I have an internal kind of confidence or an internal stability, let's say?
That's good. Yeah.
I think that's, in my mind, that's a working, if you will, definition of emotional maturity.
Yeah. The internal locus of control is everything's happening to me. I'm maybe the more victim mindset.
No, internal is what you want. External.
External. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. External locus of control. Everything's happening to me.
Right.
Internal is, okay, what do I have influence and impact over? How can I make a difference here?
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely a dichotomy and a difference there. How have you seen, just in our work environment and just in general, how emotionally mature people show up differently into stressful situations, into fast-paced environments like ours?
I mean, the easy one is conflict.
Yeah.
Right? It is incredibly hard to have productive, healthy, positive conflict with someone who's not emotionally mature. Because to your point, they become the victim. It's not my fault. It was all these other things that had nothing to do with me. Taking responsibility is part of emotional maturity for your own actions. Choosing to respond rather than react.
Yeah, that's
right.
good.
So those are some of the things that, from a day-to-day basis, that show up differently if someone is emotionally mature or not. And then the other is just a willingness to ingest or to apply feedback, or to take feedback and turn it into positive outcomes. Right. I could go on, but
I mean, you've kind of hit on a really great point, and that's conflict is unavoidable.
That's right.
Inevitable.
That's right.
And how you respond to conflict. I mean, you talked a little bit about it on our last podcast with just kind of talking about the concept of radical candor and being able to have that level of emotional maturity to share all of it,
right,
and share it well, and then to be on the receiving end, to be able to receive critical, challenging feedback and apply it, not feel like it's just a personal attack on you.
Threatened and all those things.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that there is definitely a role that each person in that scenario have to play in being emotionally mature.
For sure.
On the delivery side and the receiving side.
To go back to our topic here, from a leader's perspective, as you go, so your organization goes.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you have, it works both ways. You can have people that you lead that are not emotionally mature, and that will hamper or inhibit your progress as an organization.
Yep.
But even more so, if you have a leader who is not emotionally mature, you will stunt the growth of the organization like no other. And that's why I say, as you go, so the organization goes. My business coach, John Ott, has given me this metaphor that, kind of, there's an aroma that comes out of your office as a leader. And so for that reason, I light a candle a lot so that I can smell, a smell. And similarly, whatever is happening inside of me is what comes out of my office for the rest of the organization. And so I think that's if I am not working on my emotional, let's just say this too. There's no 100%, right? Like I am 100% emotionally mature. Said no one ever, right? But to the extent that I show up in the organization with maturity from an emotional perspective, that invites other people to do the same. If I talk about my struggles, if I'm willing to be vulnerable with the things that I've overcome in life, in terms of my emotional health,
Yeah.
then you're inviting people into the conversation to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to be imperfect, but to still show up with a mindset toward improving my emotional maturity.
It's good. It's really good. It sounds like emotional maturity is really the key to unlocking a strong EQ and SQ. Because if you don't know, if you can't control or regulate yourself, how in the world are you going to connect in a meaningful way with someone else?
Right.
Or handle conflict or sometimes it's not even conflict. Sometimes it's just competing priorities and competing, not competing, but different personalities. Like
Right.
we have these indicators outside our office. I was showing someone our office yesterday and he goes, "What are those things?" And these indicators that help give us clues into how people are wired and how they show up to the team.
Yep.
All of those types of things involve a level of emotional maturity.
Right. I love part of the model that we use. It's called Color Towns. Says that the town that you are from, right, there are things that make you amazing and things that make you annoying.
Yeah.
And we all have them. And I think
Yeah.
it's the recognition that we can all be amazing at times and all be annoying at times. And the grace that comes with that for
Yeah.
the people that are on the other side of you
Yep.
is ultimately goes back to this emotional maturity conversation.
Yeah, it's so cool because you're able to have these deeper conversations where you or I, since we're wired similarly, we can show up to a meeting and either we take the initiative and say like, "Hey, how can I best help in this meeting?
Yep.
Do you want my ideas? Do you want my vision? Do you want me to let you know what I have the capacity to take on? Like what are we trying to accomplish here?" And vice versa too. There are people in our organization that are way more detail oriented and task oriented and focused, and so how they show up to meetings is very different as well, and how
Right.
we tackle projects is going to be different. So it's just great to have that common language and the unification around. Okay, we all are going to realize we're all showing up to the table with a different strength, so let's leverage it.
And it takes all of those different personalities or all of those different types to really be, the goal is not to eliminate one type and hire all of one personality type, right? We can all be better together if we have a good mix of all of those personalities, the task oriented, the people oriented, right? The whole thing.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit. Talk about people. Talk about personnel in the organization and hiring. So I want to ask you a few questions. One is, how has emotional maturity changed the way you hire or promote leaders?
So once we learned this concept, we went back and kind of, I don't want to say studied, but kind of analyzed, why didn't that person work out? Why didn't this person work out? What did we see in the interview process that made us think that they would be a really good fit for our organization? Sure. And then the recognition that on the way out, that didn't end up being the case, and what was the cause of it. And so what we learned is that we need to start asking questions and having conversations about emotional maturity from the very first interview question.
Yeah.
Not that we are foregoing IQ, right? Not that we don't have technical interviews. We do. Not that we don't, put them through skills tests. We do. But that at the very beginning, that we start to ask questions that get at the predictor of their emotional maturity. There's no way to answer it, right? Like there's no test that says, yes, they have it or they don't. But that we can get some predictive intelligence around how they're going to show up when there's conflict, when there's growth edges, when there's a frustrated client, when we have to work a little more than we needed to, or than we thought we were going to need to, those kinds of things. That's what we're assessing from the very beginning.
Can you give me like a real example of a cue, or first like a question that you would ask, and then the cues that you look at, what would be constituted a red flag or a green flag in that situation?
So I'll give you a summary statement and I'll give you one specific example. The summary statement is that you have to ask open-ended questions.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? As an interviewer, someone who is doing the interview, we get really nervous around our side. I think one of the things I learned when I started a company and had to do the interviews is that it's not all roses and peaches on the other side of the table either, because at the same time that you're trying to get the right answers, they're trying to assess you appropriately and make sure that they recommend the right hires,
Sure,
right? So
sure.
there's stress on both sides. But you have to ask open-ended questions, and you have to keep following up. You have to keep pulling at the string, right?
Yeah.
To try to get down to the root level, because in some ways the interviewee is fighting against you because they don't want you to know whether or not they are emotionally mature, and not on purpose. That's just our nature. So a good example or an unexample of a question is, can you tell me about a time at your previous company where there was conflict in the department, or where you let the team down and what you did about it,
Ooh,
right?
that's real good.
Because what you'll learn is that people who aren't willing to go there will try to do the age-old interview trick where you turn a negative into a positive, like, tell me what your biggest weakness is. I just care too much.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're going to get that kind of stock answer, but you have to keep pulling. You have to keep asking, how did you respond? How did that, like some of those kind of touchy-feely questions, how did that make you feel? And then ultimately, what was the resolution? What were the conversations that you had? Or, so asking for really specific details.
Yes.
So that you get to the root of, did they respond or did they react? Were they thoughtful in taking feedback, or were they dismissive, right? So those types of things.
Yeah. I love that. My biggest weakness is I probably work too much, and
I just give too much to the company.
yeah. I care a lot. No, I love that. I love the open-ended question concept, and I love you kind of said pulling on the strings, like asking, help me understand more, or tell me more, or follow up
questions,
and go 2 or 3 layers deep.
Yep.
It's usually where you'll start to uncover some interesting stuff.
We had a consultant that we worked with, because anytime there's something we're not good at, we want to find someone who is, right? And her name is Donnell, and we love her so much.
Yeah.
And she taught us a lot of this behavioral interview question methodology. And she at her previous company, she was known for being able to make interviewees cry.
Wow.
because she was just so good at continuing to go deeper and deeper and deeper until they got to the root emotion.
Yeah.
And of course,
They forget they're not in there.
they forget they're not there, but they cry. So we don't go quite that far. We're not that good at it.
No, but I mean, it's interesting, because that same tactic that you would use in interviewing to understand if someone's going to be a good fit, we use it in the sales process to understand if LogicSpeak is a good fit to provide you services. I try to ask follow-up questions to really understand the deeper pain points that someone might be experiencing, or the frustrations they have, instead of just somebody going, "Oh yeah, well our current IT group is not responsive." Oh great, we're really responsive.
Right.
That's
or
not the answer.
they cost too much.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, we'll make it
cheaper.
the budget work. Yeah. No. It's okay, tell me more. Like, what do you mean by not responsive? And then they start giving you examples, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that's happening."
And the problem may just be a mismatch of priority. It might just be a misalignment.
Yep.
And that they never took the time to stop and say, "Hey, I feel like we're not connecting here on this priority." Yeah. So absolutely.
It's super helpful. Can emotional maturity be developed, or is it just something you have?
I absolutely know, without a doubt, it can be developed.
Good.
I mean,
That's hopeful. That's
yes, absolutely.
encouraging.
I mean, not that everyone has to do this, but one of the things for me that has been so instrumental in emotional maturity is a counselor, because there are just some things you shouldn't do alone, right, in the world. And so learning where, I could tell you all kinds of stories about me. My wife says I'm overly transparent, so you should probably stop me. But the things that I learned when I started going to a counselor that I wasn't there for, I did not know that I was there for.
Yeah.
But that ultimately uncovered some, let's just call them wounds from my childhood. I mean, not big things, but just, things that I was carrying around inside of me that I didn't know impacted how I showed up in the world.
Sure.
And then once I was able to uncover those things, it's not, like going back and just, crying for no reason. It's honestly to inform how you can grow from an emotional maturity perspective. And again, that's made all the difference in terms of my development, in terms of, kind of being able to see a different perspective and to grow as a person.
Well, I agree with you. it just as I self-reflect, I'm more naturally a hothead. I can, the type A clicks on. If you're Enneagram familiar, I know you are, but if you're listening, you're Enneagram familiar. I probably lean more 3 than 2 now. I used to be more predominantly 2, 3. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of alternate, but that achiever in the 3, like I want to win. I want to be the best. I want, whatever it is.
Right.
And just going back to your statement from our last episode in the lightning round, like to have to learn humility oftentimes the hard way. That really does affect your emotional maturity, and pursuing humility, pursuing growth in that has helped me tremendously to show up better for the people that I work with and the people I'm around, my community, my family.
To use your example specifically, to kind of give listeners an example, once you can learn that about yourself, that you are driven, and at times that can get to an unhealthy state. I mean, we all need to be driven. We all want to perform. Yep. But when you become a hyper performer, or when you will sacrifice everything for performing because of what it says about you, if you derive your value from that, then you start to make unhealthy decisions around performing. You might cut corners. You might start to lack integrity in terms of what you'll promise someone to close a deal, right? All those byproducts.
Yep.
But once you can come to terms with that and recognize, hey, my value as a human is outside of this. And yes, I'm going to perform because I think that's what I was put on the planet for. But at the end of the day, I'll go home and I still have value.
Yes.
Then you're able to show up with integrity. You're able to lose a deal and not go home mad and upset, right? So many of those behaviors now can be informed because now hey, this is kind of a tendency of mine.
Well, I also I experienced myself going, being hyper performance focused to the point that it had physical health negative repercussions. And I had to find a balance. I had to grow so that wasn't the only important thing, because my own physical health started to suffer.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in addition to integrity and, cutting corners and being thorough and all of that, there can also just be some internal health issues that can bubble up. And if they're not resolved, unfortunately, they can have more catastrophic impact, which we don't want. So oftentimes when people are hiring, we talked about this, like, you're trying to check all these IQ related boxes.
Yep.
And so it's almost safe to say that IQ can help you get the job, but EQ is really what keeps you there. Mm-hmm. EQ is what helps you grow within that role. And so if someone's listening today and we could just encourage them, what's one takeaway or one piece of advice you would give listeners on how they can practice emotional maturity this week?
So do you want the painful one?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
The painful one is find 3 people that know you better than anyone else.
Yep.
And ask them, how do I show up?
Oh, wow.
How do you experience me? And if there are 3 people that you trust who will tell you the truth, and if you make notes and don't put up a wall and bring defensiveness back, right?
Sure.
Because you're asking them to be very vulnerable and tell you things that you might not want to hear.
Yeah.
But if you can, so you have to suspend your defensiveness and ask people how you show up. And if they really do the exercise, you will learn so much about your own emotional maturity.
Ooh. Yeah, that's tough.
Now, obviously, there's so much to go from there, but maybe that's number 2, because that one's tough. But again, it's so valuable.
Yeah, yeah, and likely, just sitting here, I can think of the handful of people that I would trust enough to do that. Mm-hmm. And what's cool is once you open that gate, it actually becomes easier to pursue that type of feedback.
Yep.
It can be hard to receive, but you start to build this desire to grow.
Yep.
And so it becomes something that it really has a profound impact and feeds kind of your growth trajectory a little bit more. I know that I've shared this with a few people, not on this podcast, but just that there are a handful of people that I trust, or my wife and I trust, that we have said, hey, when we come to you for advice, we really want brutal advice.
Yep.
And we have gone to them with things before. There's one particular instance I always think of where we came to them with a scenario and I felt so right and so justified. And all four of these people, two couples that we trust and talk to that are mentors, all said to do the opposite. And I was like, mumbling under my breath. But it caused us to go back, regroup, reconsider, and then I had to like take a big old dose, horse pill size of humility and redirect how I was going to respond.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do.
Yeah.
But that's like that's true leadership, mentorship. That's true love and friendship and relationship. Like that's really valuable. And I think
SQ, that's all the things, right?
Yeah. And it makes it super, super helpful.
To finish the thing that we said before, the appropriate response when someone is vulnerable like that with you is thank you.
Yeah.
That's the appropriate response.
Yeah.
It's not, but if you only knew, but what about this? Or, I've had to learn that in my life as well, that you just say thank you.
Yeah. So self-leadership really is key.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional maturity can really help lead to a strong EQ and SQ. All those things are important. Prioritizing them in the right order, I think, makes a big difference in how you hire and how you build out the culture of your team and organization, which I think is huge. Any closing thoughts?
What I love is that you asked this question, and I think this is what's so inspiring about this concept is that it is not like the anathema to this conversation is, I'm sure you've heard this before. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
That's you shouldn't be so upset. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
Or worse. Oh, that's who God made me to be. Right. And both of those, will shut down emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, like that. Those are deal killers.
Yep.
And so I love the idea that this is not something that's just who we are, that we can grow and mature in, and that we can become better versions of ourselves. Right.
Yep.
And so I think that's encouraging for all of us because none of us is there.
Yep.
Like I said, there's no 100%.
Yep.
But to the extent that we can show up in the world with more emotional maturity, we will have deeper and stronger and more connected relationships. We will be more successful at work and at home. We will have children who are, more engaged with us even when they get old and leave the house and could not come back but choose to. Like all the things are byproducts of working on emotional maturity.
Thank God, because my default settings weren't good. I needed to work, and it's a lifelong work. It's a constant growth. So I'm excited about that and grateful that we got to have this conversation. Y'all, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Please subscribe to the show, and we look forward to being back with you again soon. Jason, thank you.
Thank you so much.